Hi, welcome to an episode. This is a new episode of Pretty Things, and right now today I'm in the great state of Illinois, and I'm walking on a path in the woods. The trees are everywhere you look, just about, except for the sky, of course. I mean, some of them are a little in the sky, but not all the way up there. Today I'm exploring the Illinois Prairie Path, which is made out of shoes and horseshoes and old wagon wheels and some railroad spikes. One thing to know if you're going to explore a real pretty place is what not to do, because you can't do everything you want to do, or you'll end up making a pretty place not as pretty as it was. Here's one thing not to do on the Illinois Prairie Path section. Do not mow the prairie plants. Mowing is a process whereby scientists have bred cows and cats, and a cow cat is called a mow because I don't know why, it just is. There's science. I can't explain everything for you, but don't let them eat the plants is the main thing. That's what the sign is trying to say. Today on Pretty Things, I'll be walking down this path. It's the path in front of me, and I'm gonna see what pretty things I can find on it. If I can see anything that's real pretty, I'll let you know. Oh, I think I see something. Now right here we got, this is a real pretty thing right there. You know what that is? It's Queen Anne's lace right there. If you smell it like that, it smells like shoelaces. There's a famous legend about what makes this stuff so pretty and why it's called that. I'll tell you a little bit about it. So once there was a queen, and her name was Anne, and she had some old beat up tennis shoes, and the laces were wearing out. They barely even hold on to each other when you tie them in a bow or a knot or like a pretzel sort of thing. And Queen Anne asked all her horsemen, what am I gonna do about these shoelaces that don't stay tied? And one of the horsemen was also a wizard horseman, and he raised his hand, and she said, I see that you have a question or an answer. What is it? Well, the horse wizard man, he wasn't really a horse. He was just a horse wizard man. And he said, Queen Anne, I've got your solution right here. You need to bury that shoelace in the ground for 100 days. And then you'll see something that'll blow your mind. And boy, was he right. That Queen Anne's lace grew up there, and it was real pretty. She couldn't believe it. So that's how that happens. Hey, here's another pretty thing. Now, can you tell from this video how those are purple? Well, that purple color makes them real pretty. I mean, they probably wouldn't even be pretty if they weren't like that, but they are, so it's okay. Don't worry. Oh, there's some red berries on that tree. Man, they're really pretty. See the way that little branch makes a curlicue? I think that's pretty. I'm gonna take just a minute here to show you something that I think is pretty interesting. It's a very special kind of flower that exists in some parts of the world. I'm in a part of the world right now, and I've seen this flower happening on the side of the road, and I think people would like to enjoy it as a pretty thing. Here it is. It looks like that. See how that yellow color on there is so bright and happy? Well, the thing that I wanted to show you though is how, you see how those petals are droopy like that? Well, there's a little bee, a little bug of some kind, an insect that is eating that flower. Boy, he knows it's good for him. They're all a little droopy like that, see? Now there's a reason for that. The reason is that decades ago, those flowers develop a mechanism that allows them to attract bees. And bees, like when a bee lands on a flower, it's kind of like when your golden retriever is saying, "How come you're not petting me? I'm a big fuzzy dog and I love you so much. How come I have to work so hard to get your attention?" So those flowers are yellow like golden retrievers, and that means that they share some DNA, which also means that they have some similar instincts. So what the flower does is it droops like that in that pretty way, and it makes bees say, oh, it kind of like tugs at the little bee heartstrings, you know. And the bees say, I just want to go pet that flower and say hello. Can you hear that? That is a bear growling. I think that's a pretty sound to be out in nature and hear just a big old bear kind of celebrating a sunny day. He's having a good time and he's just like, "Rah, I like that." In a way, that bear is saying, what a pretty day this is, right? Now here's something fascinating. When you're walking on a path like this, and sometimes you walk up and there's like, oh my gosh, is it a snake? That would not be a pretty thing. But here's what is pretty, is this is a snake skin. See, look, you can tell that this used to have a snake up inside of it. And if you touch it, it's amazing. It feels a lot like saran wrap. So imagine a snake wrapped in saran wrap, and then he just grew up too much and he couldn't be in it anymore and he shed his skin. I think that is a wonder of nature, and in that way it's a pretty thing. Whenever I do an episode of Pretty Things, one thing I like to encourage viewers to know with themselves from me is, man, if you're somewhere real pretty like this, like a good idea is to go ahead and make up your mind to not let the feelings that you feel about how pretty it is get all bottle rocketed up in you. You need to feel free to say, dang, this place is pretty, you know? And if it is pretty, you'll feel good if you say it. You'll feel better than if you can't say it about it. That's all. That's what I want. I want to say, dang, it's pretty. This is a pretty thing here. I'm just about at the end of my walk, but one thing I wanted to point out here was a real pretty painting somebody painted. Here it is. Somebody painted a really nice picture of a horse with a man or a woman. Hard to tell. Somebody on the back of the horse there, just walking gently through a yellow field. That's one thing I really appreciate about taking walks like this, is you'll find an unexpected creation of art added to all that beauty that's already there of a horse and a man or a woman on a horse. That's a pretty thing to me. This is another one of my favorite flowers. You know why? Because it's called a black-eyed Susan, and my mom's name is Susan, but she don't have a black eye. At least I hope not. Now this spot on the path reminds me of the Argonath from Lord of the Rings, when they were floating down the river and they saw those two big old statues, and the statues had their hands out like this, and it was like they were saying, this path is closed, right? I don't think it's really closed. I mean, it's not really the Argonath, but the Argonath, I tell you what, that was a real pretty thing in Lord of the Rings. Aragorn liked it. He was all about to cry. And sometimes if a man is a king and he's coming home, he can cry about that a little bit. Even that crying is kind of a pretty thing in a way. Kind of shows his real strength, right? That he can cry. That's what I like about Aragorn. So here's where the path goes, but can you see that path back there? That's where deer and rabbits get to go, but I can't go there. I'm just a human person. Well, that's about all for this walk. I thank you for joining me on this episode of Pretty Things. I feel like, you know, when you give a popsicle to a little kitten just starts to purring, and you can tell that he's happy, and he's like, I'm so happy, just tuck me in and read Goodnight Moon to me. I'm ready. I'm done. That's kind of how I feel after seeing just one pretty thing after another out here on this walk today in the Illinois walking prairie path. Thanks for joining me. Have a great day. Hope you see some pretty things out there. Keep your eyes open for them. Bye-bye.